Hi students, I welcome you all to the today's session on compiler design. In our previous class, we have discussed about introduction to language processing, which comprises different types of language translators, such as compilers, assemblers, interpreters, linkers, loaders, and also we have gone through how a language processing system works. Today, we'll focus on the structure of a compiler. So what are the components involved in a compiler? We'll look into the structure as well as the different types of phases available in a compiler, right? Okay. Small recap over here. Uh, if you recollect what is a compiler is simply uh, a translator which takes the high-level language as input and converts it into a low-level language program. During the translation process, it will also generate compilation errors if any are found in the high level language. Okay, so this is what a compiler does at the broadest level. But now, how this operation of converting a high level language into low level language is actually done by the compiler. We'll look into this particular part, the compiler, how exactly this high level language is translated to low level language, what are different parts of this compiler, and again those parts uh, are grouped into how many phases and so on. Okay, now if you look at this structure of a compiler, basically it contains two parts. One is analysis and the other one is synthesis. Analysis part is also called as a front end of the compiler. Synthesis is also called as back end of the compiler. Please try to remember this terminology because we will use this terminology throughout our subject. You need to understand what happens in the front end of the compiler and what happens in the back end of the compiler, right? In the front end of the compiler, that means in analysis phase part, source code is converted into intermediate code representation. Okay, so analysis part is responsible for converting the given source code into intermediate code representation. And then this intermediate code representation is given as input to synthesis part and converts this intermediate code representation into the target language. It may be a machine code or sometimes an assembly code, or it depends on the requirement. So the responsibility of synthesis part is convert this intermediate code representation, which is generated by analysis, into a target machine code. Okay, so synthesis is also called as back end of the compiler, right? So this is what actually a compiler is divided into. It is divided into two parts: analysis part and synthesis part, where analysis part converts the source code into intermediate code, and this intermediate code is then converted into machine code with the help of synthesis part. But then these two parts are again uh, grouped or divided into number of several phases. So now we will look into what exactly this analysis part is, and then what exactly this synthesis part is. Okay, now this is what analysis part creates: intermediate representation from the given source code, and the synthesis part creates an equivalent target program from the intermediate representation, right? Now, if you look into this diagram, there are number of phases in the compiler. This is what happens when you ask a compiler to compile a given source program. So when you give a source program, it goes through number of different phases. It is actually showing number of different phases over here, 6 different phases. Actually, this code optimization phase, maybe uh, two categories, two phases. It is written over here as a single phase, but maybe it is two parts again. Code optimization is actually two types: machine dependent code optimization and machine independent code optimization. So even though it is showing 6 different phases of compiler, actually it is 7 different phases that is contained in a compiler. Let us go through these names. You need to remember these names properly because these names comprises your entire syllabus. This is what you are going to learn. So if you build a lexical analyzer, that is your first unit. If you are able to build a syntax analyzer, that is your second unit, and so on. This entire phases, list of phases, is your syllabus of compiler design. You must be able to build all these phases independently. So now the first phase is lexical analyzer. Please remember the name because the terminology is entirely new for you. The first phase is lexical analyzer. And then the second phase is syntax analyzer. Third phase is semantic analyzer. And fourth phase is intermediate code generator. Fifth phase is code optimizer. And then sixth phase is code generator. Okay. Now, and also if you look at this diagram, there are two other components which are connected to all these phases. One is symbol table manager. That means this symbol table is actually connected with every phase of the compiler. Whatever information is available in the symbol table, that will be used by these phases while converting the source program into target code. And also there is another component called as error handler, which will be used throughout the translation process in every phase. Whenever there is an error identified, either the compiler tries to recover from the error or it generates an appropriate error message that will be handled properly. Okay, so these two components, symbol table and error handling, are connected to every phase of the compiler. Okay, so just read all these phases again to understand what exactly happened. Now we will discuss about all these phases one by one and what happens in each of these phases. Okay, now lexical analyzer is the first phase. So what we supply for the lexical analyzer, if you look into this, source program is supplied to the lexical analyzer. So it takes the source program and then it converts it into a list of tokens. See this sentence. It reads the characters from source program and groups them into lexemes. Remember this word, lexeme. Lexeme is nothing but a valid word in a language. Lexeme is nothing but a valid word in a language. For example, int forms a lexeme, int, which is nothing but a keyword. Keyword is the token, int is lexeme. There may be number of keywords, there may be different types of tokens available in any programming language. I think you know this word. What is a token in a programming language? You learned about this token in C language, I think. What is a token? Token is the smallest independent uh, part of your programming language. Independent unit, smallest independent unit or individual unit, smallest individual unit in a programming language, which means keywords, identifiers, operators, and so on. Right. So every single valid word, which is called as a lexeme, forms these tokens. So again, I'll repeat this sentence because you need to understand this sentence to build this lexical analyzer properly. So read the characters from source program one by one and group them into lexemes. For example, to understand this, let us say you declared two variables in your C program by using int space a comma b followed by a semicolon. Okay, so int space a comma b followed by a semicolon. That is the statement you wrote in a C program. Now, if that statement is given to lexical analyzer, what this lexical analyzer will do is it identifies, it reads the characters one by one from left to right. That is INT first. It identifies it as a lexeme and separates it as a keyword. Okay, it recognizes it as a keyword. So INT is the first lexeme which is categorized as keyword. Listen properly. INT is the first lexeme which is categorized as keyword. Okay, then second one is a space. Space is actually a special symbol which is also part of your C programming language and a valid lexeme and will be uh, recognized as a token. What is it? It is a white space. It will be categorized as a white space and also a token, a valid token in C language. And then it reads A. Whenever it sees A followed by comma, because comma is a delimiter, comma is a delimiter, whatever appears before comma is a lexeme. So A is a lexeme. What is that A? It categorizes that A as a identifier. Again, identifier is a valid token in C language. And then comma is a valid lexeme which will be categorized as delimiter, followed by B. B will be again recognized as a lexeme which will be categorized as a valid token in C language and also an identifier. And finally, when it sees semicolon, it recognizes that the statement is completed. Okay, so how many tokens were identified in that particular statement? Int is a token, space is a token, A is a token, comma is a token, B is a token, and semicolon is a token. How many are there? Total 6 tokens were identified by your lexical analyzer. So this information will be identified by the lexical analyzer and then that information will be stored in that special data structure symbol table. So that entire information, whatever lexemes or tokens are identified, that entire information will be stored into this symbol table. Okay. Then the lexical analyzer, uh, how it exactly identifies, how it knows that this is a valid lexeme or this is a valid token in the corresponding language, how it knows. For that purpose, what we need to do is you need to write regular expressions. You need to write regular expressions to identify all the valid tokens in a programming language. So whenever you are designing a compiler, particularly when you are designing this phase of compiler, lexical analyzer, what you require is you require these regular expressions. Regular expressions. Do you know how to write regular expressions? Don't say no, because you know how to write regular expressions. You practice them in your formal languages and automata theory. If you remember, we designed hmm, regular expressions for several languages. For several languages, I think you can recollect how to write these regular expressions. And also, we repeat that again in this uh, first unit, second chapter. Again, we will repeat that process of writing regular expressions. We practice them, and then uh, we will understand how a lexical analyzer works. So a regular expression represents what exactly a keyword looks like. So you will write a regular expression to identify the valid keywords. Similarly, you will write the regular expression to identify the valid identifiers, and so on. For every token in the language, you will write a different regular expression which are used by the lexical analyzers to recognize whether it is a valid token or not, according to these regular expressions defined. Okay, don't worry even if you don't understand what I am teaching now, because it is just theory. Anyhow, we will be practicing these problems also. We will design some regular expressions, and also we'll write some lexical analyzers with the help of a tool. A special tool is available called as Lex. We'll be discussing about that tool at the end of this unit, first unit. So don't worry about it. We'll practice it, and then come back to this particular topic, read it again, then you will definitely understand. Okay. And similarly, another task of lexical analyzer is removing these lexical errors. If at all any errors are identified in the lexical analyzer, it will identify it, and it will throw the error messages also. Okay. And then the second phase of the compiler is syntax analyzer. The name itself tells you what it is going to do. I forgot to tell you one thing over here. Probably an important thing. Lexical analyzer is also called as scanner. I repeat, lexical analyzer is also called as scanner. So lexical analysis is also called as scanning. Lexical analysis is also called as scanning. What lexical analyzer does is lexical analysis. So lexical analyzer is called as scanner. What lexical analyzer does is scanning, right? Now, syntax analyzer. Syntax analyzer verifies whether all these tokens received from the lexical analyzer are syntactically correct. Okay, so to understand what is the job done by syntax analyzer and the lexical analyzer, I'll give you an example. Suppose if I write a comma b space int followed by semicolon. Listen carefully. In a C program, I wrote like this: a comma b space int followed by a semicolon. So when that statement is given to lexical analyzer comfortably identifies all the tokens. Identifies A as a identifier 1, comma as a delimiter, B as another identifier, space as delimiter, int as a keyword, and semicolon as a delimiter. So there is nothing wrong in the statement according to lexical analyzer. Why? Because we wrote all valid tokens in the statement. But what is wrong? The wrong is they are not properly framed. So writing a comma b space int is syntactically wrong. All the tokens are valid in language, but the framing is not correct. Therefore, it is the responsibility of syntax analyzer to check whether the tokens are syntactically written or not. Okay. For this purpose, what it does is it constructs a parse tree. It constructs a parse tree and then checks whether that parse tree is syntactically correct or not. Then how it knows whether it is syntactically correct or not? The syntax of a particular language is written in the form of context-free grammar. So you need to build a context-free grammar to specify the syntax of a particular language. Okay, context-free grammar is required here. So do you know how to build or how to write context-free grammars? Yes, we learned this also in formal languages and automata theory, right? So with the help of context-free grammar written and with the help of the constructed parse tree, it verifies whether the tree is syntactically correct according to this CFG written for the corresponding language or not. In case if it is not syntactically correct, it throws the appropriate syntax error to the users or to the programmers. Okay. So other name for this syntax analyzer is parser. Okay. And the job done by syntax analyzer is syntax analysis, which is also called as parsing. Syntax analyzer is also called as parser. Syntax analysis is called as parsing. Okay. So in two phases, first two phases, in lexical analyzer phase, you require the knowledge of writing regular expressions, which are learned in formal languages and automata theory. And for designing this syntax analyzer, you need the knowledge of context-free grammars, which are again learned in formal languages and automata theory. Okay. So I request all of you to go back to that formal languages and automata theory subject and read these two topics before we start building these analyzers. Okay. And then third phase is semantic analyzer. So semantic analyzer responsibility is to check whether uh, a valid meaning is there for the corresponding statement or not. Syntax analyzer identifies whether the statement is syntactically correct or not. Semantic analyzer identifies that whether the meaning of the statement is correct or not. Okay. It generally performs these things: type checking and label checking, flow control checking. It is, for example, if there is any infinite loop build, sometimes it will be identified. If there is any incompatibility in data types on which you are performing operations, it will be identified by the semantic analyzer. In case if any labels are missing, that means you are using a value which is not defined properly, it will be identified by the semantic analyzer, and so on. There are many tasks done by semantic analyzer. So majorly it checks whether the meaning of the corresponding statement is correct or not. In case if types are not matched in a statement, semantic analyzer performs that type promotion tasks also. For example, let me show you a simple snippet to understand what it does. Yeah, see this here. Suppose there is a statement identifier 3 into 60, Identifier 3 is a float data type, assume like that, and 60 is an integer. So when you multiply a float data type into 60, what should be the result? The result should be float. Therefore, to multiply 60 with this float data type, 60 should be promoted to float. The higher data type must be uh, converted. Lower data type must be converted to higher data type. So what semantic analyzer does is it converts this 60 into float by applying another operator. That means it is adding another meaning over here. Here 60 does not mean integer, it means a float, and then once this meaning is added, these two floats can be successfully multiplied. So that is what the job of semantic analyzer. We'll come back here again when we finish all those phases. I'll discuss it again. Yeah, so that is what semantic analyzer is doing. Okay, next. And this is the fourth phase, intermediate code generator. It takes that uh, syntax tree produced by the semantic analyzer, and then it converts it into an intermediate code. The job of this intermediate code generator is convert that input into an intermediate code. Okay, there are many types of intermediate codes. We'll be learning all these things. For example, 3 address codes, 2 address codes, and so on. There are many types of intermediate code representations available. We will learn one by one in probably in fourth unit or fifth unit. Okay, we'll see that later how exactly it looks like intermediate codes, right? Then up to this intermediate code generator phase, the four phases are common for every single compiler. Every single compiler. For example, uh, there is a C compiler available for ANSI, ANSI vendors. Okay, and there is a C compiler available for Turbo. If you observe the difference, there are actually uh, many things, many differences between these two compilers, but irrespective of those differences, the first four phases are going to be same. So even if you develop another C compiler also, first four phases will not change. What happens with the remaining phases will change. Okay, intermediate codes can be directly taken, and you can build the remaining compiler uh, for the next versions or coming versions. Okay, so this is what you need to remember. Till intermediate code generation phase, it is going to be same for every compiler. From then onwards, the compiler uh, implementation will change from one compiler to another compiler. Okay, and the next phase is code optimizer. This code optimizer's responsibility is to uh, design or to change that code generated by intermediate code generator into an equivalent code in such a way that the resultant code consumes fewer resources and executed faster than the existing one. That means optimization means execution speed will be good, right? So this phase is responsible for changing that code in such a way that the overall utilization of resources such as energy, CPU consumption, and so on, many aspects are there for optimization. Uh, and also in terms of number of instructions also, reduce the number of instructions, reduce the utilization of resources, reduce the uh, energy consumption, and so on. In many ways, in many aspects, optimization will be done. So the output of this code optimization, code optimizer should be a optimized code which requires very less time for execution. And then there are two types of optimizations we can apply. One is machine dependent and the other one is machine independent. At this level, when intermediate codes are generated, the optimization type that is applied here at this level is machine independent code optimization will be applied over here. Okay, I'll show you an example of machine independent code optimization at the end of this session. And machine dependent code optimization is done when the codes are actually generated, the target codes are actually being generated. At that level, machine dependent code optimization techniques will be applied. Probably you don't understand what exactly it is. You will definitely learn about all these things. We will learn all those techniques, optimization techniques in fifth unit or sixth unit. Okay. And finally, this is the last phase, target code generation, which produces the code, the relocatable machine code, which will then be executed by the interpreters. Okay, so this is target code generator. And another job of target code generator is it also performs register allocations and also uh, instruction management. Okay, uh, the output of this target code generator is depending on the corresponding assembler that is being used in the corresponding system. It is dependent because based on the assembler uh, and the number of registers available, the target code will be generated. For example, if the number of registers available is only 2, then the entire code, the target code, should contain uh, only 2 registers because only 2 registers are available. If the computer or if the assembler is more powerful and 3 or more registers are available, then the code will be changed because if number of registers are available for performing operations, then according to that number of registers available, target code generation will also change. Okay, right. And I told you that there is a special data structure which is connected to all the phases, which is symbol table, which consists of the information about all the tokens which are identified in the lexical analysis phase, and that information will be disseminated to other phases in the later phases. Okay, the information is inserted by the lexical analyzer and utilized by all the phases, right? What is the information that is contained in symbol table? We can see it here. For example, if this statement is a plus b and c minus d is the statement which is given to lexical analyzer, then it identifies all the lexemes. uh, for example, this is the entire array which is showing the entire expression. First token is an identifier, small a is an identifier, and the position is 1, and it is showing only few columns over here. It may contain other things also, the type of the token, the initial value of the token, and where it is actually stored, and so on. Its scope also stored in the symbol table. This structure may vary, but overall it looks like this. Okay, so a is the identifier and end of the statement. That means end of the symbol. A name is completed, followed by plus. Plus is completed, followed by identifier. End of the symbol. This is another keyword and which combines 2 statements. End of the statement, and so on. It looks like A plus B and C minus D. This is the entire lexeme array, and this is the information related to that which is stored in the symbol table. So it contains all the information about the tokens in each statement and what are the values in it, positions, attributes, initial values, and so on. Okay, so that is what symbol table is used for. Right. So all the phases are associated with symbol table manager and error handler as shown in the diagram that we already discussed this point. Now, let us go through this example to understand how exactly it happens uh, in compiling phases, right? So there are 6 phases shown here, and let us assume that the initial, the statement which we want to compile is this one. Position is equal to initial plus rate into 60. This is the statement written in your programming language, and I want to convert this into target language. Okay, so position is a identifier, is equal to is an operator. We all know that. Initial is another identifier. Identifier is nothing but a variable. Okay, 3 variables are there, 3 operators are there, and a constant. 60 is a constant. Now, when this statement is sent to lexical analyzer, it identifies all the lexemes, the tokens. The first one, position, is an identifier. So it represents that identifier as ID, comma, first identifier, comma, 1. Its position is 1. So position is the first identifier, followed by, this is another token, which is an operator. It is directly written as is equal to, but you can write it as OP, OP comma, its type also you can write OP comma equals. So in some books it will be written as OP comma E. E stands for equals. It depends. You can use another notation also, but I am directly writing this equal to symbol. And initial is the second identifier. Therefore, it is ID comma 2. Okay, followed by plus. This is another token, an operator. So it is directly written over here. Rate is another identifier. So third identifier is ID comma 3. Into is operator. So again star is written over here. 60 is a constant. 60 is directly written over here. So the output of this lexical analyzer looks like this. ID1 equals ID2 plus ID3 into 60. And this information of 1 position, 2 initial, 3 rate is available in symbol table along with the type, initial value, and so on. Every information about this is available. Of course, we'll discuss about this symbol table design later when we begin lexical analyzer part, design part. So don't worry about it. What exactly symbol table contains, we'll discuss about it later. Okay. So as of now, just understand that all these tokens are stored. The information about all the tokens identified are stored into symbol table. Okay. Now, syntax analyzer. What syntax analyzer does is it builds a parse tree. This is also called as syntax tree with the corresponding expression. The expression says that ID3 into 60 is added to ID2 and the result is copied to ID1. So ID1 is equal to ID2 plus ID3 into 60. That is what it is written. Okay. Now, syntactically it is correct. Now, this tree is sent to semantic analyzer. Semantic analyzer identifies any type checking and converts that 60 because identifiers, all the identifiers are assumed as float values. Therefore, 60 will be converted into float. With this added meaning, the resultant tree will be sent to intermediate code generator. In intermediate code generator, it performs all those tasks and generates code. So the first operation which is performed is converting the 60 into float. So into to float of 60 is the first operation, and the corresponding result is stored in a temporary variable t. And then this is multiplied with ID3. So T2 is equal to ID3 into T1. Okay, and then T3 is equal to ID2 plus T2. So what is T2? It is ID3 into T1. This one, this is already copied to T2. Therefore, this is added with ID2. ID2 plus this entire thing. And finally, this temporary value T3 is copied to ID1. This is what generated by your intermediate code generator. Okay. Now, these instructions are sent to code optimizer. So code optimizer's job is to reduce the number of instructions if possible at this level. Okay. So this is machine independent code optimization. Therefore, what it does is, instead of using 4 instructions, if you observe, it is using only 2 instructions. So how it is reducing? Instead of using a function into to float 60, it is using 60.0 directly. Okay, and then it is multiplied with ID3. ID3 into 60 is done in single step, which is copied to T1, and then this T1 is added to ID2, which is directly stored into ID1. So instead of writing 4 instructions, now it is the same task is done with 2 instructions. So that is what the job of code optimizer is. And finally, to perform these operations, the machine code. This is are actually assembly language codes. Assembly language, assuming that there are 2 registers available, R1 and R2. Then the first task is LDF R2 comma ID3, which means store the value of ID3 into R2. The assumption in assembly languages is, maybe you learned in computer organization, the assumption is the value should be available in the register to perform any operation. Therefore, ID3 must be available in a register to apply any operation on it. So copy it to register 2 and then perform multiplication operation with R2 comma R2 hash 60.0. This is a constant. So perform a multiplication with the value of R2 and 60.0 and store it in R2 again, and so on. Okay. Okay. And other instructions will also be written over here during the conversion. These are all assembly language statements which will be written to perform these operations, right? So this is how it is done by your compiler phases. So finally, this code, this is the target code, it will be generated by your compiler, right? Okay. So that is what I want to explain in this session. Just before I conclude, just go back to the list of phases of compiler again. Try to remember the names, because we will learn about all these phases throughout this subject. Just go through this: lexical analyzer, syntax analyzer, semantic analyzer, intermediate code generator, code optimization, and code generator, along with this error handler and symbol table matrix. Okay, so this will be learned in your first unit, this will be learned in your second unit, this will be learned in third unit probably. Let me go through your syllabus. If at all it will be there in third unit, or else third unit is also probably designing syntax analyzer, because this is actually a big topic. Designing parsers is not a simple task. There are several types of parsers we are going to design, so maybe it spans 2 units, and from fourth unit onwards we will learn about the remaining phases. Okay, so that's all for this session. Thank you very much. See you again in our next session.